Welcome to the Having It All podcast, the show about what it takes to live an abundant, loving life. My name is Matthew Bivens, and each week I'm helping you get out of your head so that you can truly have it all. Let's do it. What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Having It All podcast. I'm so excited you're here with me today. We are going to have a tremendous conversation, and this one is going to hopefully stir some stuff up within you, because we're talking about some harsh truths right now when it comes to bettering yourself, growing, healing, personal transformation. There are some harsh truths that you just have to embrace. And once you do, it's really going to help you accelerate forward. And I'm going to share a couple of them with you. And today's episode is inspired by an article I read recently on Inc.com. And the article was called, "Why You Must Accept the Harsh Truth That Nobody Cares and You Need to Work Harder." And so those are the two things we're going to explore in this episode. And again, I want this to stir some stuff up within you, because that means with that friction, we're going to create a little bit of heat and we're going to create some magic. All right. So that's what we're going to dig into. And first, before we do that, I want to share some, announcements, some bigger Having It All podcast announcements. Recently, I started doing an audit of all the pieces of content, all the episodes that I've published on this podcast. And let me tell you, I'm still working on this project, and it's a big one because I'm going through everything. I'm looking at every title, every piece of content. I'm digging into what I talked about, all the stuff. And one of the things that I'm discovering is, man, we have touched on so many amazing topics, so many topics that are helping you all to have and live that abundant, loving life. And it also helped me to see where there's some opportunities to do some cool things. And so starting in 2020, it's going to be the kickoff of season 4 of the Having It All podcast. And maybe you didn't realize that this podcast was broken up into seasons, but it is. And you can tell the shifting in seasons. Easiest way is by the changing in the music of the podcast, because we've gone through 3 different iterations of theme music for the show. But I've also changed up the format. The podcast used to be interview-based, and now it's mostly these solo episodes. And there's been some other changes as well. And so in 2020, there are some new changes coming to the podcast. And I really want you to just embrace them, embrace this idea of change, because a lot of times we can run away from change and we don't want change. But here's the thing. I know that you're here listening to this content, listening to these messages, because you want to change, right? Like, you want to change something in your life. Your attitude, your discipline, your self-love, whatever it is, you're looking to change. And so I'm going to bring some changes in 2020 to the show, and I just want you to embrace them and trust that everything is moving us towards that mission of having it all, living that abundant, loving life. So I'm very excited because, one of the things that I tend to do is I do a lot of internal auditing, meaning I sit with myself and I tap into my intuition, and I really allow things that resonate with me to guide how I flow. And there's a couple of cool things that are resonating that I want to do with the podcast moving forward. So that's what's upcoming. I wanted to let you all know, because it's November now and we're getting close to the end of the year. So I'm excited about some cool stuff that's coming. And, I do want you all to share with me any feedback that you have. Any changes that you would like to see the show make in 2020, please let me know. You can email me at mattcbivens@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram at Matthew_Bivens. And let me know the changes you want. If you want specific topics, more of a certain type, less of a certain type. If you want longer episodes, shorter episodes, more interviews. You want me to bring Sarah on more to talk about anything, whatever it is, let me know. And I will incorporate that into the plans for 2020. Okay, let's flow into a little bit of magic. I got a lot of magic that happened in the past week, but I'm going to share one piece with you that is super cool to me. And this past Saturday, every Saturday actually, I participate in a fun run, a 4-mile run through Atlanta. And it's with my community, the Your Day Balance Game community. And it happens every Saturday, rain or shine. And the magic was this Saturday's fun run, it was cold. It was cold and it was raining. And despite the cold and rain, we had almost 20 people show up to run. A lot of them were kids. And what was so cool, if you saw us running down the street, you would have seen the kids leading the run. They were leading. And that to me is so magical that we had, I think it was like 17 people that chose to show up in the face of circumstance. And what's so cool to me, what's really magical about that is every single one of those people made a huge deposit into their self-worth tank when they did that. Because you grow your self-worth, one of the ways you can grow your self-worth is by doing things that are hard. When you do something that is uplifting and healthy and empowering and hard, and you do it knowing that it's hard and you do it anyway, that increases your self-worth. And so every person on Saturday knew that it was going to be cold, knew that it was going to be rainy, knew that we were going to do 4 miles, and they showed up anyway. And that to me is magic. So I invite you to think about some magic for yourself. Where have you influenced self, others, or life in an empowering way? Think about it now, and we're going to move on to some listener love. Today, I want to give a shout out to Caroline. Caroline, what's up? I am grateful to you for engaging with me on Instagram. I posted a story, and you engaged with it, which was really cool. And, my story, I said that I believe that we all can have it all. I believe we can all have amazing wealth, incredible health, super tight relationships, amazing friendships, be on such great terms with our family, have deep, loving connections, vibrant health, all of that. I believe we all can have it all. And Caroline, I love the fact that you do as well. So thank you for connecting with me. Thank you for believing in the mission of Having It All podcast, that we all can have it all. We all can live an abundant, loving life. And thank you for being you, Caroline. If you want to connect with me the way Caroline did, then again, go to Instagram, Matthew_Bivens, and just, comment, like something, shoot me a DM, whatever it is. And I'd love to just take this relationship off of the podcast platform and create more of a back and forth dialogue with you. So that would be awesome. All right, last little thing before we jump into the episode today is I got to let you know the t-shirts, the brand new Having It All t-shirts, they are still available. I still have some up on the shop, and that's at MatthewBivens.com/store, and that'll take you right into the shop. There'll be a link right there. And we've got 3 awesome designs right now. I think my favorite is Abundant Loving Life. Yeah, Abundant Loving Life, because you know what? That's what I'm playing for. That's the meaning of having it all. And anybody that sees you walking around rocking that Abundant Loving Life shirt is going to ask, what is that all about? And they're going to know that you are playing for something big in your life. And so I think that's my favorite design. Well, I don't know. How can I say that? Because there's a beast mode design too. And that was my word of the year in 2017, beast mode. And that's like one of the concepts that I've just adopted for myself. It's even in my mission statement. So I'm torn. I'm torn. We got Abundant Loving Life, Beast Mode, and Choose Love. And each one of those shirts comes in many different designs, many different cuts. So I've got long sleeve, women's t-shirts, women's tanks, men's shirts. I've got hoodies, all sorts of cool stuff, and in different colors. So they are available now. Check them out. They make great gifts for the holidays, a great gift for yourself. Treat yourself. You know what I mean? Treat yourself to something awesome. And go to MatthewBivens.com/store, and you'll see the link there that'll take you to check out all the different designs and all the different stuff in the brand new Having It All Swag Shop. Super, super excited about that. Yes. Okay, let's jump into this topic. Because I know you're thinking what do you mean nobody cares? What do you mean I have to work harder? That doesn't sound like the type of thing that comes from this podcast. And so before actually what I want to do is, this was inspired by an article. And the article was called, again, Why You Must Accept the Harsh Truth That Nobody Cares and You Need to Work Harder. And the author of that article is Scott Mautz, Mautz. So go check it out. Go read the original article on Inc.com. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can check it out. And first of all, when I saw the topic, the title of it, a lot of times these titles will bring up feelings within me. And that's exactly what it did. I was like, what do you mean nobody cares? What do you mean I have to work harder? That's one of the things I'm trying to tell myself to stop doing. Like, I'm trying to work on my own conversation that I'm not working hard enough. And so I think this article triggered something within me, triggered this feeling within me that you aren't doing enough, which is part of my own disempowering story that I'm working on healing and shifting. So I opened the article expecting to be, feel confronted, probably, and expecting to maybe to be like a little bit pissed about what the author had to say. But when I read the article, I understood those two main points in maybe even a different way than the author originally meant. The two main points that the author makes are that, one, nobody cares about your situation. That's the difference that I want to add on there. Nobody cares about your situation. And the second point was that you've got to work harder. You must work harder. And I agree with those two things. And there's not like a little asterisk. There's just more context behind those 2 points that I want to deliver. And so, overall, like, people do care about you. They do. People care about you. But they don't care about your circumstance and your story. And there's a distinction there. And overall, I believe that there are things that you need to work harder on in order to get the life that you want. Now, let me break those two things down for you. So that first point, again, that nobody cares. For me, my belief is that people don't care about your story, about your particular flavor of adversity. They don't care about your circumstance. And the reason is because they've got their own story. They've got their own flavor of adversity. They got their own circumstances that they're trying to deal with themselves. And so when we get really caught up in our story and really caught up in the things that are personal to us, it's really easy to start complaining about our circumstances. And when we start complaining about our circumstances, right there, that's putting us in a victim mode. Whenever you do that, you are in a victim mode, and that is a loss of power. And you will never create the life you want from a victim mode. You need all the personal power you can muster to create the life you want. So as soon as you step into victim city, that's gone. The second thing is that when you start to complain about your circumstances, really get caught up in your story and all that stuff, you're wasting two of your most valuable resources, your time and your energy. Being frustrated about the unfairness in life and bemoaning over things and bemoaning over how, people are keeping you down. And if this wasn't the case, then you'd be able to do other things and all that stuff. It's just like pouring those valuable resources right down the toilet. You pour your time and energy right down the toilet. And you know what? You never feel better after complaining. You don't. All you're doing is digging a deeper victim hole for yourself. The more you complain, the more power you give up. And it never, never, never improves your situation. And the reality is that other people just don't care. And the reason why they don't care is because they've got their own crap. They've got their own stuff that they're dealing with, and maybe they're complaining about their own stuff as well. And so you gotta catch yourself when you really start to get enrolled in your victim story, or enrolled in your helpless story, or enrolled in your there's a bias against me story, or people are out to get me story. Catch not only when you get enrolled in it, but then when you try to pull other people in it. Like if you're hanging out in circles where all you all do is complain about your lives and complain about how frustrated you are about different things, your relationship, your money situation, your career, any of that stuff, just know that collective is a massive power loss for you. And spending too much time in that collective will never move you in the direction of your most abundant, loving life, ever, 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 ever. However, not even however, and the people who are creating their abundant, loving lives, the ones who can sit back at the end of the day, end of the month, end of the year, and just truly be at peace and feel fulfilled and excited about their life, those folks are not making excuses. They aren't. They are not playing the victim. They are not being overly focused on what's happening to them, right? They're not focusing on trying to right all the different wrongs that are happening around them and happening to them. They aren't, because they understand that putting any energy in that direction is a wasted effort. Again, it's pouring those resources right down the toilet. And instead, they're operating from their circle of influence. They're focusing on the things they can control. They're focusing on, things that they have direct influence over: their attitude, their effort, their behavior, their actions, their thoughts, right? That's where people are focusing, who then are creating all the amazing things in their life that they truly want. So this first point about nobody cares about your story and really nobody cares about what you're going through. I had an experience that was a sort of an example of this that I want to share. Earlier in the year, I went to a personal development workshop. It was a weekend-long workshop, and it was all about us working on ourselves, healing some of our fears, overcoming some of our stories, tapping into our personal power, all of that stuff. And we were talking about judgment and the really harsh judgments that we have on ourselves and others. And the host of the workshop asked for a volunteer, so I put my hand up, and I volunteered to come up and talk about some of the judgments that I had. And I shared the judgments that I had been holding about myself. And I shared that part of my belief was that other folks were judging me on the same things, right? That other people were judging me for, my body, right? My body size, not being muscular enough. That was one of the things. And what the host of the program did is he said, "Okay, I want you to raise your hand if you've been judging Matthew on anything that he said." And my hand was the only one that went up. And he looked around and he said, "Nobody is judging you on any of those things that you're judging you on." And he said, "Do you want to know why?" And I said, "I don't know. Tell me why." He's like, "Because they're so busy judging themselves on their own stuff." You see, it's like folks aren't getting caught up and enrolled in your things because we all have our own stuff that we're dealing with, our own stories, our own judgments, our own circumstances, our own adversities. We all have our own stuff. And so that's why I think the author of the article was saying that nobody cares. It's because nobody is getting, too enrolled in your stuff because we're all enrolled in our own stuff. And once you understand that, and then you can start to understand that if you're spinning this story about your life and you aren't liking the result, well, you know what? It's time to start spinning a different story. It's time for me to stop thinking that everybody else is judging me on these things. It's time for me to recognize that I'm the only one judging me on these things. And then it's time for me to make a shift and start to loving myself and accepting myself and embracing myself. And then if I want to make a change in my life, doing something about it. Like that's the sequence that we want to take. And it can start with realizing that ultimately nobody cares. And the reason why they don't is because they got all their own stuff that they are struggling to deal with themselves. And so that first point in the article, like I get that. And I think it's important. I really wanted to share that with you. Now, point number 2 is interesting as well, because point number 2 is that you must work harder. And if you think about that, there's a lot of truth in there as well. In order to get what you want in life, you got to work harder. Now, it's working harder in things you may not necessarily be thinking about right now. And so the first thing I want to present to you is I want to ask you a question. What do you think would happen if instead of you complaining about your life situation, getting caught up in your story, trying to enroll others in your adversities and the bias that's happening to you, instead of you doing all that stuff, you put your energy into figuring out a solution to your problems? What would happen? So many things could happen. And by solution, a solution could be asking someone for help. So instead of complaining, you go and you ask someone for help, maybe a friend, a mentor, a coach. A solution could be you getting into action on a thing that you know is going to help you move in the direction you want to go in. So if you're complaining about your body, complaining about your health, complaining about your fitness, instead of complaining about that, take that energy and put it into getting into some sort of physical movement, right? Or maybe the solution that could be found by you just doing some research. And so what would happen to not only the circumstance itself, not just the thing that you're complaining about, but what would happen to how you felt about it? I believe that both things would experience some major shifts. So if instead of you complaining about your life's problems, you put that energy into finding a solution, the problem would start to shift, and the way you felt about the problem would start to shift. And that is a way for you to work harder. Because the hard work might be making that shift from complaining to proactivity. The hard work might be making the shift from being a victim to then taking the reins of your life, taking life by the horns, that cliched saying, and doing something about it. And so you know what? Sometimes you might actually have to work harder, meaning you actually have to put in more effort, put in more reps on the things that are going to get you where you want to go. And hey, if you're not sure where you want to go, then if that's coming up, you're like, I don't even know where I want to go. Well, then it's probably a great time for you to set some goals, or for you to set some direction, or have some small vision for your life. Especially since we're entering the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, it's a great time for you to set some goals and have some vision and do all that stuff. And this point number 2 about you have to work harder, it made me think about something that I say to my coaching clients. I tell them often that I cannot want this more than you, right? Like, I cannot want you to experience the transformation that you say you want more than you. That it won't work. You know what I mean? Like, if I want the thing more than you, because I can't force you to do anything. I'm not in your shoes. I can't actually, make the shift or do the meditation or do the homework I give or, eat the foods or do the exercise. I can't do that for you. And so sometimes the work is you actually getting in and putting in those reps, because your coach can't do it for you. Your partner can't do it for you. Your best friend can't do it for you. They can hold space and they can support, but they can't do it for you. And so if you say that you want some change in your life, that you want to grow and that you want to create a new reality, maybe it's a new relationship, maybe it's a different money situation, like more money, maybe it's a different career, maybe you want some new friend groups, maybe you want to set a new health standard for yourself. If you say you want those things, but you're not willing to put in the work, then you cannot expect for anything to change. And so I do agree with point number 2 from this article. You got to work harder. And sometimes working harder is not necessarily about filling your schedule with more hours, right? Sometimes for some people, it's about working on your rest and your recovery. Like, I know a number of workaholics, folks that are just pushing it. And for them, they do not need to work harder, not at the thing that they're doing already. What they need to do is prioritize their own self-care and to prioritize themselves over their job, over their family, over their spouse. Yeah. You have to prioritize yourself, the filling up of your tank, over pouring into everybody else, including your kids, including your spouse. Absolutely, 100%. You will not win in the long term by prioritizing your, everybody else's well-being. taking care of everybody else, not taking care of yourself. So sometimes for some people, working harder is about falling back, taking stuff off your plate, or just switching things. Maybe if it's 12 hours a day of grinding hard at work, you switch and you do 10 hours a day and 2 hours on you. Or maybe it's just 30 minutes on you to start, whatever it is. For a lot of people, working harder isn't about adding more things on their plate that are going to take up more hours in the day. It's often about reprioritization. And that can be hard work. Sometimes it's about working smarter. Maybe the things you're doing aren't effective. Sometimes it's about trying something new or trying something different. But the point is that you do have to work harder at some things to ultimately have the life that you want. And so when you do these things, when you really take to heart, point number one, that nobody really cares about your story because they have their own story. And point number two, that you have to be working harder to get the things you want out of life. When you really take those things to heart, what you can start doing, what happens is you're putting your focus back on the things that you can influence. We call those things a circle of influence. Those are the things that you can control. Those are the things that you can actually okay, I can do something about this. Rather than all the stuff that's outside of your control, all the things that you're never going to be able to influence in a significant way that you might be complaining about or focusing on. We want to get you back into problem-solving mode. That's where your answers lie. That's where your breakthrough lies. And ultimately, that is what's going to get you to taking back your personal power. And it's from a place of being connected with and understanding and utilizing your personal power that you can then make the shifts you want in your life. Shifts in your habits, shifts in your actions, shifts in your thoughts and your beliefs, all of that stuff. And so, what I'm offering up to you now is I want to give you some stuff to reflect on. I am recommending that after this episode, you take time to reflect on these questions I'm about to pose to you. This is what I want you to ask yourself. I want you to ask yourself, where am I getting caught up in my story about why my life is the way that it is? Where am I getting caught up in my story? Do I even recognize that it's a story? Or am I so far in it that I just think it's reality? Am I trying to get other people wrapped up in my story? And am I getting frustrated when they don't enroll in my story? Or am I getting excited because I have successfully enrolled people in my story that's keeping me stuck in my victim place? Am I bucking responsibility for my circumstances? Am I not wanting to sleep in the bed that I've made? Am I being proactive? Do I even know what it means to be proactive, to take the reins of my life? Have I made the determination that I'm going to succeed in the thing that I'm focused on, no matter what? Am I choosing to not put in the work? Am I choosing to not put in the work and then complaining about the results? And am I failing to see that maybe I'm just working hard in the wrong area? Or maybe I just need to make a little pivot. Maybe I need to focus my attention in other areas. Am I failing to see that? I really, really, really invite you to answer those questions for yourself, to just, think about them and answer them for yourself. Because I believe that your answers might illuminate some things for you that you can take immediate action on. And all you need to do is start taking some small, immediate actions that are going to move you in the direction that you want to flow. That's it. We're not talking about massive leaps here. We're talking about small little actions. But first, you got to recognize that trying to enroll folks in your story or even believing in your own story is not going to serve you ever. And you got to recognize that, there's some work to be put in. So that is my recommended action item at the end of this episode. And now I want to make a little bit of a pivot. Because, one of my gifts as a balanced lifestyle coach is helping you get unstuck. Helping you get unstuck in those areas that you feel stuck in life. And I do that by offering up new perspectives on things you're missing. Because the reality is you cannot see your own blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots. And as a coach, I'm there to help you see what you're missing and then to help create and stick to a plan that's going to get you where you want to go. And so as you move closer to 2020, because it's November right now, 2020 is like right around the corner. I want you to consider whether having me as a balanced lifestyle coach by your side to support you, guide you, and help you succeed would result in you feeling more excited about the life you're living and creating. I want you to put yourself in your shoes this time next year and really think about that. Would having that balanced lifestyle coach by your side have you feel more excited about the life you are creating and experiencing? Right now, I am taking applications for my 2020 coaching slots. Those are the coaching slots for next year. And I invite you to fill out the application and set up a call with me. The application, it's simply a list of questions that I'm asking you about what you want out of life. What do you feel is holding back? Things like that. And from there, I'll reach out to you to set up a one-on-one call, and we'll talk together about what it is you want to create in your life. And I've had a lot of people say that their eyes had been opened and they've had some aha moments just by filling out that application and jumping on the free call with me. And yes, the call is free. It's a totally free call. So if you truly want 2020 to be a different, more abundant, more joyful, loving, prosperous, exciting, and ultimately fulfilling year for you, then go to my coaching page and fill out the application. The coaching page is at matthewbivens.com/coaching. There is absolutely no reason why 2020 cannot be your most amazing year yet. It all boils down to choice. It's simply you choosing to make it so. That's all I got for you today. That concludes today's episode. I'm excited for the breakthroughs you're going to have because I know there's some stuff popping up for you right now. Yes. All right. My name is Matthew Bivens. I'm wishing you peace, love, joy, and abundance, all those beautiful things. I'll catch you on the flip side. Here's to you having it all. Quick note about the Having It All podcast. I am not a doctor nor a licensed therapist. I'm a guy with a story and a passion for conscious conversation. My thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are my own. So please consult with your doctor or healthcare provider regarding any questions or issues you have related to your personal, physical, or mental health.